Today saw another example of claim and counterclaim in Russia's war with Ukraine, which news outlets like this one, DW, are unable to independently verify. The Kremlin accused Ukraine of a cross-border incursion into the Russian region of Bryansk, causing the death of a civilian. Ukraine denied the allegation and said it was a provocation by Moscow. DW correspondent Nick Connolly in Kyiv. What do you know about that incident?
Well, the longer this goes on, since those first initial reports in Russian government media, the more confusing it is. But certainly the view from Kiev is that this is a false flag operation, an attempt to rally people in Russia to the cause of this war, to try and re-engage their interest and to basically show Russians that this is a Ukrainian attack on Russian soil and to then hopefully encourage them to sign up to fight in Putin's military. So far, lots of the things are very contradictory in terms of the information we've heard from there, but there's definitely expectation that there could be revenge attacks, kind of retribution attacks on Ukraine in the next couple of days, and people have been calling on ordinary Ukrainians to really listen to those air raid warnings and to go to the shelters and to not think that they are in safety. So there's an expectation that there could be significant escalation in the next couple of days.
Nick Connolly in Kyiv there. Thank you, Nick. And now let's explore these claims by Russia about an attack in the Russian town of Bryansk a bit further and bring in DW's Moscow bureau chief, Yuri Resheto. He is now based in the Latvian capital, Riga, because DW is banned from reporting from Russia. Yuri, Putin speaks of a terrorist attack. What are the Russians saying that happened in Bryansk?
Well, that seems to be indeed a very strange story, Gerhard. First, there were media reports that a group of armed men took dozens of Russian hostages in a grocery store in a village near Bryansk, that is a city close to the Russian-Ukrainian border, as Nick Connolly said. Then it was denied. Then came new reports from another village that a school bus was allegedly attacked, injuring a child. According to the official version, 2 civilians died. During the day, there were sometimes conflicting reports, some of which were denied by the authorities. And at the end of the day, it was reported that a group of saboteurs had been pushed back into Ukrainian territory where they had been allegedly shelled with artillery. The problem is that the entire Russian south has been a restricted area since the beginning of the war, and there are hardly any journalists or independent experts who can confirm or deny anything.
So what does this classification of this incident as a terrorist attack mean for the area?
Well, the important question is, of course, was it a terrorist attack at all? And was it an attack from outside, from Ukraine, or an attack organized by the Russian partisans, or even staged by the FSB? In Ukraine, we've heard that they deny involvement in the incident and call what is happening a classic provocation. In fact, there are more questions than answers. Was there a single village or two where the alleged saboteurs were? How many victims were there? And why were the reports constantly denied, and so on. However, the Russian Volunteer Corps, which calls itself part of the armed forces of Ukraine, took responsibility for crossing the border. The Russian Volunteer Corps was formed in August 2022 from Russian citizens who immigrated to Ukraine. Its members are right-wing, and they claim to fight on the side of Ukraine against Russia because for them, Vladimir Putin is the biggest enemy of Russia.
Now, how stable is the situation then on the Russian side of the border?
Well, look, the entire Russian border, or the entire border region, has been a single restricted area since February last year. By the way, almost the entire south of Russia is a restricted area. 11 Russian airports have been closed for over a year, and not without reason. There have been more and more shootings, explosions, and allegedly rocket attacks, especially in the last few months. Of course, this cannot be compared with the suffering of the Ukrainians, but life on the Russian side is no longer easy and safe either. That we can say for sure.
DW's Yuri Resheto there. Thank you. And for more on this, I want to bring in Roman Sachuk, who has been monitoring the information war in Ukraine since it began for the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab. He joins me now from Kyiv. Roman, you have just published a report on disinformation in the war in Ukraine. What are the main findings you have discovered?
Sure. So what we found, first of all, is that Russians use both old approaches and the new ones to influence different audiences. So, for instance, they continue to overinflame the information space with false theories and denials of their, let's say, war crimes, like it was with MH17. And after the invasion, it was the case of Bucha massacre or the Mariupol maternity hospital bombing. But alongside this thing, they're also using something new, like false debunking, for instance, like the website War on Fakes, that actually uses the fact-checking toolbox to actually promote propaganda and create disinformation, like it was, as I said, with Bucha massacre, when they claimed that there were people moving in the really famous video from the city when the Russians withdrew from the city. And in reality, it isn't. But in any case, Russian MOD amplified the video and claimed that it's all of the false information by the Ukrainian side, when in reality it wasn't. Another thing is that they tied their messages to the specific audiences, meaning that for different regions, they used the available infrastructure. So in European Union, the RT and Sputnik are banned. So they needed to find another ways to reach the audience through some fringe politicians or just users on social media. They are injecting those different narratives. And for the places where the RT and Sputnik are still actually in place, they are using them because they are available. Another thing is that they used the branding of the well-known media like BBC, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, and Al Jazeera, among others, and promoted their messages like with the bombing of Kramatorsk railway station. So they created the footage, put the creative or like different logos of this media that seems legitimate in order to find an external confirmation of their information and tell them that, look, even Western media agree with us, when in reality, those media never published those stories in the first place.
Roman, sorry, I need to interrupt you there. Let me ask another question that's very important here. If we're looking at both sides, who is winning the information war in your opinion?
I mean, it's a great question because, well, I honestly believe that it's impossible to win information war as it is, because it's like continuous thing that goes for a while, and there is no such thing as like winning definitively. If we're talking about the European Union, we probably could say that Ukraine is better represented in promoting the truth and what's happening on the ground in a way that Russians cannot promote their version of what's happening, because truth prevails and real footage of the places of the bombing, of the war crimes, they prevail in the information space. So in that case, you might say that probably Ukraine is ahead, but again, it's not a win and it's not a victory in the information war.
Thank you very much there, Roman Asachuk.